CD, creator, detection. Guys, created a stretch mark. I have like 4 gun skins I bought. And I have the red dragon skin. 30 days. Come on, my phone. My phone about to go dead. Get up.
He had received multiple threats in the past by Gary, saying he was going to kill him, leave April alone, don't come near my girls. Stanley, on the other hand, swears he had nothing to do with April's death. I asked Stanley if he had a hard time letting go of April, and he said no. He said that it was a cordial breakup. He says he loved April, her daughters, he would never do anything to her. Stanley is telling the truth, but what he says next certainly bolsters his claims of innocence. He said the last time he was there to retrieve his belongings was 3 days prior to the murder.
I'm gonna play Captain Defense. I can get more back on. So that's my brother. Look at the peak. Right. Let me go to my gallery. On my shotgun. This gun is gonna have this gun skin. Left for 10 days. And this is left for 10 days. This one is permanent. Submachine guns like that for 21 hours. And a scar. Red dragon. Sniper, sniper.
Family members also counter Stanley's claim that April broke up with him over money.
Solo.
In fact, when he met April in December of 2007, Stanley had just gotten out of prison. He had just served a 15-year sentence on a robbery. Based on the statements made by April's friends and family, it's starting to look as if April's estranged husband Gary had been right about Stanley all along. Given Stanley's past history of violence, perhaps he is indeed capable of having murdered the love of his life. Unfortunately, by the time detectives put this information together, Stanley has slipped from their grasp. He posted bond, and he was out. Stanley Daniels is free to roam the streets again. However, new information will come forward that will leave detectives wondering if April's killer is either Stanley or
Guys, on a game, I'm right there, right? But on a game, I was top trendsetter. I was up there. I was up here, and I was so happy. See, guys, I'm playing with real people. You just heard a little voice. Please be quiet. Jump while everybody else jumping it. I'm gonna follow this person.
Where's the camp? Tuesday on TV1.
One Lion Park, my dude.
It's July 11th, 2008, 3 days into the investigation of April Dickens' brutal murder, and detectives in Prince George's County, Maryland, have just learned their prime suspect, 48-year-old Stanley Daniels, is back on the street. We charged him with simple possession of marijuana, but he was able to post bail. Detectives don't have enough evidence at this point to pin a murder on Stanley Daniels, but the Dickens family firmly believes that he is the one who's murdered April Dickens. Especially her estranged husband, Gary. Stanley is still riding around the neighborhood as if nothing happened. That infuriated. Damn. Infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, liver blood tests, diarrhea, irritating or loss.
Okay, I found a chest. Thank you, Lord.
Alice calls it her new normal because a lot has changed, but a lot.
What is up with them and these funny little
Strange husband,
things?
Gary. Stanley is still riding around the neighborhood as if nothing happened. That infuriated Gary. Detectives are scrambling to find evidence that will allow them to bring charges against Stanley. A week passes with no new developments in the case. Then, on July 18th, a friend of April's approaches detectives with information that suggests the killer is neither Stanley nor Gary, and in fact, isn't even a man at all. One of April's friends tells police that she is very suspicious of Gary's current girlfriend, Vanessa Henderson. April's friend said that April did not like for Vanessa to be around her three daughters, and there was apparently a violent relationship.
Oh, I promise you guys. Hold on, guys. I'm be right back.
Police do raise an eyebrow and wonder if Vanessa could be responsible for April's murder. Gary told police officers, although they had their own relationships, Gary and April were still intimate with each other. Imagine what she would have done if she found out that Gary and April were hooking up. Perhaps Vanessa wanted April out of the picture completely so that she could have Gary to herself. After speaking with April's friend, detectives bring Vanessa Henderson in for an interview. What about your relationship with April? We understand it wasn't a plan. We didn't always get along, but I never kill her. I couldn't do that to the girl. My stepmom is someone I know. No matter what, I can always call her and go talk to her. Where were you on the night of the murder?
I died, so it doesn't matter.
I was nowhere near her place, I can tell you that.
Search up some people's names.
Vanessa go, but they don't just take her at her word. We have taken her cell records and you did not place her at the scene of the crime. She had also provided a timeline of her day to detectives, and when they followed up, it all checked out to be true. Detectives have no choice but to cross Vanessa off their suspect list, but that still leaves Jared Dickens and Stanley Daniels as persons of interest. But Stanley fits the bill because of his violent past. Detectives have been able to rule out Gary as a suspect. Usually takes several months. But on August 8th, 2008, exactly 1 month after April's murder, the case takes a shocking turn. Police in Washington, D.C. respond to a crime scene across from a strip club on Georgia Avenue. When police arrive on the scene, they find an SUV in the parking lot and a man's bullet-riddled corpse sitting behind the wheel. The radio is still on. There's still a burning cigarette in his lap. Apparently the murder is very fresh. And the detectives investigating April Dickens' murder are suddenly short one suspect. Get out of there.
Come on, Jaja. Ow. Going to eat it.
I want you back. How many times did you tell me to stop? Your breath stinks of bourbon. And I'm telling you, but I do. It's too late. You threw this That's all away. I didn't do anything with it. It was all taken from me. Dinner for Two. Premiere Sunday, September 2nd at 7 on TV1. Don't just stand there, Shorty. Get down. George, plus, George. Jenny. Plus, Jenny. George, plus, George, keep your voice down. Plus, Jenny. Mine. Mr. Bentley. Mama. Mr. Jefferson. George, King. All the Jeffersons. We're moving on up with the Jeffersons every Friday starting at 6 on TV Wonderland. August 8th, 2008. Exactly 1 month after April Dickens was found dead in her Prince George's County, Maryland apartment, police are investigating a shooting outside a Washington, D.C. strip club. There were multiple 911 calls because this happened in the early evening hours. At the scene, police find what looks to be an assassination. To detectives, it looked as if he was ambushed as he left the club. Witnesses describe a black male that they saw run up to the vehicle, shoot the man, and then run to a nearby alley. But who was the mystery shooter? The dead man's identity provides the first clue. They find the man's wallet and make a preliminary ID. We get a call from Metropolitan Police Department telling us their victim was Stanley Daniels. Within hours, D.C. detectives are comparing notes with their counterparts in Prince George's County. Like they're related. What was happening? It was pretty obvious that this could have been a retaliation murder. To detectives, there's only one man who could be angry enough with Stanley to seek out this type of retribution. Gary Dickens. Gary had been so distraught over April's murder and felt from the start that Stanley was solely responsible. So the detectives had a hunch that the very man who was angry and wanted revenge could have been the very one who killed Stanley or had Stanley killed. It made logical sense that Gary had a hand in the murder of Stanley Daniels. At this point, investigators' only option is to keep digging. There are 2 homicide investigations going on at the same time. As weeks go by, D.C. police have no solid leads into who killed Stanley Daniels. Then, 2 weeks after Stanley's death, detectives in Prince George's County received the DNA results from the April Dickens investigation. They showed that it was indeed Stanley's DNA under April's fingernails. Also, the DNA results came back on Stanley's clothes. That clothing was spattered with blood, and they did show that Stanley Daniels had April's blood on him. Stanley Daniels was, in fact, the man who murdered April Dickens. We suspected all along that Stanley played a part and was involved in April's murder. And with the DNA results, it ultimately proved that. Police and prosecutors are pleased to have finally identified April's killer. But it's not the same as bringing Stanley Daniels to justice for the crime. We never had a chance to prosecute him for killing April.
Here.
However,
Since you want to cry, here.
The DNA results do allow detectives to construct a
You don't want this, Jaja.
It's my belief that April got home, went to her bedroom, she turned
Moo!
her pajamas on, and she was watching TV. Whether or not Stanley had slipped in after April or made himself a copy of the key and was hiding in the apartment, the results were the same.
Move, Jaja.
Stanley produced a weapon. It escalated, and Stanley attacked April. It's my belief that Stanley, at that point, got on the bed and was straddling over April, and he was stabbing her. It was a very vicious struggle. She had defensive wounds on her hand and on her wrist. It was obvious that April was in the fight of her life. DNA evidence was one of the strongest pieces of evidence we could have had. That evidence would have permitted a competent prosecutor to try the case and win a conviction against Stanley Daniels. With the mystery of April Dickens' murder solved, detectives must now determine whether or not her estranged husband Gary is the one who killed Stanley. With Gary knowing and truly believing that Stanley was the one who killed April, detectives believe it's possible that Gary took matters into his own hands to take Stanley out because he believed that police were taking too long. But will authorities be able to hold Gary accountable for his alleged crime? In September 2008, a month after Stanley's murder, DC police finally catch a break.
What? They told DC police that she wasn't there when Stanley was killed.
She said that she had seen the individual who committed the shooting, someone that she knew as Tony.
That's all she knew. The name was Tony.
She maintained that he was, in fact, still the shooter, but this complicated our case a little bit. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Now we thank you for saying he was not paying attention to me. Hey, Erica! Is my husband here yet?
Well, Miss Smith, she's going to be a summer here.
Right.
I would have to let her out the deal she did. I'm not going to do that.
No, my husband? No. Hey, well, so, we gotta have a conversation.
Our marriage is almost destroyed.
I feel like we put work before love.
Orange, we have a problem.
Where's the camp?
Tuesday on TV1. In August of 2008, a little over a month after April Dickens' murder, DNA evidence proves that her ex-boyfriend, Stanley Daniels, is her killer.
I feel Stanley murdered April because he just couldn't let go.
However, Stanley will never stand trial for his crime.
Stanley was gunned down outside a strip club just several days before the DNA evidence came in. Investigators suspected April's estranged husband, Gary Dickens, was involved in Stanley's murder, but they had no proof.
But a new witness has just come forward claiming that Stanley's shooter wasn't Gary Dickens, but rather a man named Tony.
DC police did the domestic relationship between Gary and this Tony. So they were looking for a Tony Dickens, an Anthony Dickens.
They run searches, they place calls. No one's able to identify Tony, or at least a Tony Dickens. Desperate to find this alleged shooter, detectives try a different approach.
We put flags on anybody that we knew to be connected to the Dickens family, so that anybody that might have information relating to the case, if they get arrested, they get interviewed.
Finally, in April of 2009, the investigators' persistence pays off. They arrest a man named Eric Carmichael on an unrelated drug charge.
He is the cousin of Gary Dickens.
During an interview, Eric provides detectives with the breakthrough they've been looking for.
Eric Carmichael told a couple of very important facts. First, that he knew Tony and Gary and that they were cousins. It turns out that Tony was named Antoine Fenner. Tony was just his nickname.
Can you tell us anything about the murder of Stanley Daniels?
Considering the possibility of getting his drug charges dropped for cooperating with detectives, Eric begins to talk.
He told us that he'd been present at a cookout right after the murder happened, where Tony had taken responsibility for the murder.
It was Antoine who admitted to him, we took care of Stanley. The police didn't get him, we got him.
Tony had said, I went up and I shot that guy in the car.
Eric became key to this case because Eric, who was arrested, cooperated. Prosecutors eventually dropped his drug casing.
But right now, take it easy. Don't cut.
Don't try.
You're all smiles now, but when I said 5-to-1 rock star, you're evicted. You look speechless. Were you shocked?
You know, I said I wasn't. Orange, we have a problem.
Where's the camp?
Tuesday on TV1. In August of 2008, A little over a month after April Dickens' murder, DNA evidence.
Jaja, what is wrong?
Stanley is her killer.
I feel Stanley murdered April because he just couldn't let go.
However, Stanley will never stand trial for his crime.
Stanley was gunned down outside a strip club just several days before the DNA evidence came in. Investigators suspected April's estranged husband, Gary Dickens,
Jaja!
in Stanley's murder, but they had no proof.
But a new witness has just come forward claiming that Stanley's shooter wasn't Gary Dickens, but rather a man named Tony.
DC police, the domestic relationship between Gary and this Tony. So they were looking for a Tony Dickens, an Anthony Dickens.
They run searches, they place calls. No one's able to identify Tony, or at least a Tony Dickens.
Desperate to find this alleged shooter, detectives try a different approach.
We put flags on anybody that we knew to be connected to the Dickens family, so that anybody that might have information relating to the case, if they get arrested, they get interviewed.
Finally, in April of 2009, the investigators' persistence pays off.
They arrest a man named Eric Carmichael on an unrelated drug charge.
He is the cousin of Gary Dickens.
During an interview, Eric provides detectives with the breakthrough they've been looking for.
Eric Carmichael told a couple of very important facts. First, that he knew Tony and Gary and that they were cousins. It turns out that Tony was named Antoine Fenner. Tony was just his nickname.
Can you tell us anything about the murder of Stanley Daniels?
Considering the possibility of getting his drug charges dropped for cooperating with detectives, Eric begins to talk.
He told us that he'd been present at a cookout right after the murder happened, where Tony had taken responsibility for the murder.
It was Antoine who admitted to him. We took care of Stanley. The police didn't get him. We got him.
Tony had said, I went up and I shot that guy in the car.
My big brother. So, you can go back to calling me Angela. I'm so sorry if I came off as an entitled little bitch who always gets her way. But you know what? Maybe I am, because I did get my way. You're going home. Rustar, if you're watching this, you should know this is not how I intended for my HOH week to go. This was supposed to be a good week for us. I love you with everything in me, and I hope to see you soon.
Man.
Fade on traction.
She was a single mom, taking a second chance at love.
I'm still the shooter, but this complicated our case a little bit.
Right, and we got show. Like, you know. Thank you.
Fade on traction.
You are. Up next, it's the live head of household competition. Who will slide into power and take control of the game? Find out next.
It's a pea protein gluten-free pate. Fade on traction.
He's just a great guy.
There are multiples on the table. One is cash, 3 are FHA, 1 is VA. So what can you do?
Jaja.
Into who killed Stanley Dick.
That's all she knew. There's a name, Tony.
She maintained that he was, in fact, still the shooter, but this complicated our case a little bit. Good morning, everybody. Y'all be thinking before that he was not being a lecture paid. Is my husband here yet?
Well, Mr. Chicken, it's going to be a summer here.
Right.
I would have to let her out of the building then, so I'm not going to do that.
My husband? No. Hey, well, so, we gotta have a conversation.
Our marriage is almost destroyed.
I feel like we put work before the...
Lauren, we have a problem.
Where's the camera?
Tuesday on TV1.
In August of 2008, a little over a month after April Dickens' murder, DNA evidence proves that her ex-boyfriend, Stanley Daniels, is her killer.
I feel Stanley murdered April because he just couldn't let go.
However, Stanley will never stand trial for his crime.
Stanley was gunned down outside a strip club just several days before the DNA evidence came in. Investigators suspected April's estranged husband, Gary Dickens, was involved in Stanley's murder. But they had no clue.
Jaja.
But a new witness has just come forward claiming that Stanley's shooter wasn't Gary Dickens, but rather a man named Tony.
DC police, the domestic relationship between Gary and this Tony.
Lay down.
They were looking for a Tony Dickens. Anthony Dickens.
They run searches, they place calls. No one's able to
Hush.
identify Tony, or at least a Tony Dickens.
Desperate to find this alleged shooter, detectives try a different approach.
We put flags on anybody that we knew to be connected to the Dickens family, so that anybody that might have information relating to the case, if they get arrested, they get interviewed.
Finally, in April of 2009, the investigators' persistence pays off.
They arrest a man named Eric Carmichael on an unrelated drug charge.
He is the cousin of Gary Dickens.
During an interview, Eric provides detectives with the breakthrough they've been looking for.
Eric Carmichael told a couple of very important facts. First, that he knew Tony and Gary and that they were cousins. It turns out that Tony was named Antoine Fenner. Tony was just his nickname.
Can you tell us anything about the murder of Stanley Daniels?
Considering the possibility of getting his drug charges dropped for cooperating with detectives, Eric begins to talk.
He told us that he'd been present at a cookout right after the murder happened, where Tony had taken responsibility for the murder.
It was Antoine who admitted to him. We took care of Stanley. The police didn't get him. We got him.
Tony had said, I went up and I shot that guy in a car.
Eric became key to this case because Eric, who was arrested, cooperated. Prosecutors eventually dropped his drug case he had taken up.
On April 22nd, 2009, almost 9 months after Stanley's death, detectives placed Antoine Fenner under arrest.
He categorically denied being involved in the murder.
With Antoine refusing to cooperate, he's held without bond while detectives in both DC and Prince George's County work together to build the case.
We obtained cell site and cell phone records of family members, girlfriends, of the suspect, and of Gary.
And we began to identify patterns of calls back and forth.
One call in particular stands out to detectives.
Shortly before the murder, someone had called the Dickens house in the general vicinity of the strip club where Stanley was murdered.
Gosh.
Belonged to someone named
Stupid game.